And here we have a collection now of pictures of Debbie, starting from shortly after she was born, a few days, and going right up to 1969. She was born in September of 58, so it's about an 11-year documentary. And she was born in Plattsburgh just after I was assigned to Ethan Allen Air Force Base over in Vermont. And we were still at Mom and Dad Hebert's on 5 Grant Street in Plattsburgh. We were staying there till we found a house over in Vermont, and lo and behold, Debbie was born while we were there, about 5 weeks prematurely. Here's her Aunt Bernice picking her up. And this is Debbie's mother, all decked out in her finest Sunday go-to-meeting clothes. We weren't too well off in those days. Actually, that was Barb's costume that she had worn to a school Halloween party, a high school Halloween party, or hobo day or something. Couldn't have been Halloween. It had to have been a hobo day thing. Halloween was more than a month off. There's Debbie sound asleep. Now she's getting one of her first baths on Mom and Dad Hebert's kitchen table. Little Tyke had quite a bit of hair for such a youngster. Well, when it came time to brush it, at least it gave my wife something to work with anyway. I don't believe she's 2 weeks old yet here in this picture. These were the days before Pampers, as you notice. The good old cloth diaper. She's either ready for her bottle or ready to go to sleep. One of the two. I don't know which. Now we move on in time to, we finally found a place to live in Vermont and got a house with an option to buy it, split level. And Debbie here is approaching almost 1 year. I believe she's about 2 months away from being 1 year old here. And she's just starting to walk. And up to this particular point, she hadn't stood by herself unassisted as yet. But you'll notice here that we do catch her standing all by herself here momentarily without her realizing it. And there. She's standing all alone, has no idea that she's doing it until she falls. So we lucked out and were able to document our daughter's first time standing by herself. Giving her mother a kiss. And my wife picks one of my zinnias to give to her. She's really not that impressed with it. There was a reason for her to shy away from that, which we didn't find out until a few minutes later, but there was a bee in it, and she saw it, we didn't. Once we got rid of the bee, she was right at home with the flower. Not a flower lover, I guess. Well, she doesn't look a great deal different than she does today. Now I try an experiment here where I have her crawl towards the camera. I'm laying on my back on the ground and having her come towards me. And we get a nice close-up. This is my attempt at a garden in Vermont. Came out pretty well, actually. I had a lot more luck here than the one I tried in Oklahoma. This was our house that we originally moved into and thought we were going to buy after 1 year. But interest rates and taxes and so forth changed over the period of that year. We still have the Packard, as you see, parked in the garage. And this is the house we wound up buying, since the bank told us we couldn't afford the other one. This is just two doors down the street from where the split level was. This is, of course, a Cape Cod. Now, we moved to the state of North Dakota. From Vermont, I was reassigned to Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota, when they closed the base in Burlington. And we were the first ones to move into these housing quarters on Minot Air Force Base. They had just been constructed, and as you can see, there had been no landscaping yet. Here's Debbie at the front door with Steve. Obviously a warm day for North Dakota. One of my wife's non-photogenic days. Here's Mike giving Debbie a ride in her stroller on what is supposed to be a sidewalk in front of our house. This has to be the summer of 1960. Debbie's not quite 2 years old yet. There she is mowing the dirt. And they had an air show at Minot Air Force Base, as they're wont to have every year. And there's Debbie in the cockpit of an F-101 fighter. I handed her up to the pilot, and he graciously put her on her lap. There she is with me alongside of the aircraft that you just saw her sitting in. And here's a shot of a B-52, which is still in use today. There's Gloria with Debbie in her stroller alongside the B-52. Mammoth airplane. Here's a KC-135. This particular one is called Miss Minot. Air refueling aircraft. Same aircraft that the civilian airlines called a 707. And this is Debbie underneath a jet bomber, a B-47. I have a snapshot of Debbie's son under the same type of airplane. It's too bad we can't transfer the photo to the video. Now we're in Plattsburgh. Prior to our departing for France, and this is the day that Debbie is going to be baptized. We got Bernice and Artie to be her godparents. There she is with her Aunt Patsy out on Mom and Dad Abear's side lawn. There's Bernice and Artie with her. We're all set to go to the church. This has got to be late May or early June of 1961. There she is with her grandfather and the original Chihuahua called Tex. You can see the Packard in the background there. This is Debbie with a little girl down the street. Came up to play with her that day. And give him her kiss goodbye. But that's enough for the little girl. She doesn't want any more. Debbie doesn't know what to make of it. Oh. And here we are in France. When we first got there, we were housed in a trailer court outside of Drew Air Base. I was assigned to Evreux, but the only housing available, temporary housing, was down at Drew, which was about 30 miles away from Evreux. We had to live there until we got government housing. These were the trailers that were available to us down there. And they did have somewhat of a playground for the kids. This particular trailer court was almost empty when we were there. Very few other people there, as we see Debbie swinging on the swing. There's Debbie and her mother on the teeter-totters. It was like living in a ghost town as far as the trailer park on Drew Air Base was concerned. Here we see Mike and Gloria taking a turn on the teeter-totter. And Debbie is left without a partner. Mike Takes a little bit of a bouncing around there. Debbie always seems to manage to find a cat wherever she goes. This is looking down our street, quote unquote street. Picked up a tricycle for Debbie up at the BX. And it was very difficult for her to ride because the driveway, the roadway, was primarily crushed stone. And it was very difficult for her to make the bike move under those conditions. What she needed was a nice smooth pavement somewhere. This is after we had moved to Drew City, to the housing area just outside of the town of Drew, and this was a neighbor's backyard play set, swing set and slide. They were nice enough to let us use it for the purpose of taking these pictures. This was the Simca that I bought shortly after we arrived in France. I got this car to drive back and forth to work in. The teeth in the front grille were my idea. Here's Debbie sitting outside the BX on Drew Air Base. She used to go shopping with me when I got the groceries. This was Halloween. One of the Halloweens we spent in France. Debbie in her costume. I have no idea which Halloween this was. She's all ready to go trick-or-treating. We might possibly prevail on her to do the twist. Yes, I thought we could. I think Debbie did the twist in front of every landmark in France. And our home was no exception. Mike and Steve, along with Gloria, are in the doorway. And here we go again. These are the Gibsons. They're neighbors of ours. They lived across the backyard. That was their son, Darrell. This is in the trailer back at Drew Base again when we're getting ready to leave to come home. Debbie had an eye infection, as you can see, and of course of all the times to get one, this was one of the tubs that was so-called bathtubs that are in the trailers. And here's Debbie with her hair in curlers, all ready to leave for Orly Airfield, where we were to take off and come home. And here we are back in Plattsburgh, and Debbie petting Mom and Dad Hebert's cat. This was her first, what you call permanent? Was that what she got? Or
No, she just had her hair done.
she just had her hair done and set, was it?
Yeah.
Cut and set.
Yeah.
there was, in Oswego, it was across the street, was the beauty parlor, and she's on my mother and father's front porch. The lighting was very poor this day, actually. It was a very cloudy day. And there she is at the front door and about to enter the house. She melts away into the darkness. Here we are at Municipal Beach here in Plattsburgh. We were on vacation in between assignments. We'd come home from France and we're going to be moving on to Oklahoma. We had a 60-day leave, so we spent quite a bit of time between Plattsburgh and Oswego. There is a plane passing over, and Debbie's about to explore the wonders of Plattsburgh City Beach. We hadn't brought any bathing suits with us because we hadn't anticipated this, but she got in a little waiting. There's my wife, sound asleep on the beach. Her name is Gloria.
Thanks.
Mike and Steve digging in the sand. I believe Mike had a magnifying glass. I think he was burning some little strips of driftwood using the sun's rays. There's Debbie waiting out in the water. Now she's doing some digging. Mike has struck water. My wife thought I was taking that picture of her, but it was really the women in the background that I was trying to get. There he is himself. Now we're in Oklahoma City once again, and Midwest City, and Debbie is riding a little carousel type bike that belonged to one of the neighbors. Our house, as you can see, was located at the end of a circle. What was the name of that street anyway? Do you remember?
Single Tree Circle.
No, that was in Minot.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is Oklahoma. Well, anyway, it isn't important. Now we are in Utica, New York. After I had been assigned to Rome, one afternoon we took Debbie over to the Utica Zoo, and that's what you're looking at right now. Here are some llamas that roam around free. These monkeys are inside a barrier. They're not running around free themselves, but it appears that way from the way they have it arranged. Looks like a goat down in the pen down there. These are, well, those are geese, I guess. And here's a deer which runs loose. And here is a white peacock. I don't know how rare they are, but I've never seen one before or since. Here is your regular run-of-the-mill peacock. And a giant sea turtle. Not a sea turtle, that's a tortoise of some sort. That's not a sea turtle. And we have your basic dromedary. Rather moth-eaten. And I would say those are flamingos from the looks of them. Debbie getting a drink of water in the lion's mouth. And she managed to finagle a cotton candy out of us. Here is a leopard. And there is a lion. They have a really fine zoo in Utica. A lot of people are not aware of it. Here is a turkey, the animal that almost became our national bird. Here is a bear. 2 bears, as a matter of fact. Living the life of Riley. There you have a pair of tigers, and adjacent to them is a lion. Here's another shot of the bear's den. One day I took Debbie down to Albany to see the State Museum down there, and this is a shot from in between the state office building and the state capitol, in a little park between the 2 buildings. This was like 1967, possibly 68. Probably 68 from the size of Debbie. Now we come to